This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Bike Works HMB, your one-stop shop for bike service, sales, and rentals in Half Moon Bay, California. Whether you're on the mountain, road, or low on battery, Bike Works HMB has your back. So come on down to 520 Kelly Street. Come talk some shop with the boys. All right, I'm GT. Peace out. Enjoy this episode of the podcast.
Welcome to Between Shifts Podcast. Today we are joined by Half Moon Bay local, race dad, Soul Patch diehard, and my boss, owner of Half Moon Bay Bike Works, Kris Nishkian.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Let's go. We got him on.
Right
Here
on.
we go.
All right, Dave, start us off.
So Half Moon Bay local, you grew up here, and what was it like growing up in the back of Montera? I mean, pretty secluded, especially back then, just north end of the coast.
Yeah, I was super lucky to grow up there.
Yeah.
8th Street up in Montera, and bunch of good buddies growing up on the block. So we got to just have a great time every day up in the fields. There was no houses, so like you could do whatever. It was the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
The school was close by, so we could go down there and play hoops and ride bikes. There was always jumps down by the school, so it kind of started the whole bike thing for me.
Was that what did those little jumps that are behind Fairlawn?
Actually, they were in the front of Fairlawn. So like right in the front, that creek, there was the cypress tree right there in the parking lot. To the right was a creek jump that Freddie Ondi and a few other like local older guys built.
Okay.
And we worked our way up to those, but it was a challenge for sure.
But that was part of like the start of...
Yeah, it was definitely the start of like loving bikes and having that freedom on a bike.
Yeah, so we know you love bikes and just action sports in general. You enjoy watching, being a part of, and just being engulfed in that. But we were curious if, when you were growing up, did you play any organized sports, any stick and ball sports?
Yeah, a few. It wasn't really my focus in life. I didn't really have the most dedicated sports, career, if you want to say. I played a little baseball, started a little late, and on the coast, it was super competitive, just like always. And I was very much so mediocre at it. So it was,
So you're saying your sister was better?
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Well, what, moving on from that, like what do you think helped shape the work ethic that you have today?
Yeah. So, for me, it was my parents. My dad's always been super, super dedicated to work. I know that before I was born, but he was a little bit older of a dad. So he played around a lot more as a young guy and then traveled the world and really, really did like explore life, before having a family and having us. But at that point, once I came around, it was always about work. So he was always gone, always working. So that's what I knew. And when it was time that he came home, it was chores or it was something to do first, always before play. So the neighborhood kids, all my buddies on the block, they all knew that it was get it done first and then we can go do what we wanted. But it was always work first.
Yeah, work hard, play harder.
Did you ever have any friends that were just like, no, like we got to go to this thing. I'm going to help you finish your chores?
No, I was the guy helping them do that because I was like, bro, get it done. We have to go have some fun. And
put your nose down and just go.
Yeah, their parents were like, you're not going anywhere until your rooms are clean. And you're like, okay, I'll go over there right now and let's get this done, and
shove everything in the laundry basket.
Yeah. Getting back to growing up in Montera too, like it was so different than it is now. It was foggy, cold, dark, dreary, but there's just something epic about growing up in this small little area where all your buddies like have forts all over the place and you're just going up on the hill. And Montera Mountain was like just an exploration at that point, like just kind of getting out and hiking around or whatever. We didn't have mountain bikes, so it was more or less out on your feet, just kind of cruising up in the hills and climbing up cypress trees or pine trees and having fun. And
just being a kid
and being able to be exploring and be not on a leash and just kind of having free reign to do what you want. And it was we were pretty lucky. Our parents were down with that. So
Nice.
Was that back then? Was it mostly BMX to start with? Like when did mountain biking specifically start to come into play?
yeah, 100% BMX. A lot of street back then, it sounds kind of weird, but if you watch old school BMX, there was racing and there was street. Like you didn't really have like a lot of categories of bike. There was obviously road bikes, but who as a kid really wants to be into that? So it's we rode BMX bikes, more for jumping, just, building jumps in your yard, building jumps out on 8th Street out of your dad's like cut lumber for the stacking the 2x4s and putting a little piece of plywood on it and
launching,
and trying to do what you could.
Send the bravest guy down first.
Yeah, exactly. See who cuts their knee wide open on the gravel.
Did you end up with any nicknames from that?
No, not really. Like not back then. Some nicknames came later actually as time went on and got a little older.
You got any good ones?
Yeah, I could start out with one that came from kind of early teenage years when we'd be riding motorcycles or motocross bikes at Slade Axe track. And one of my buddies I'd always be a little nervous because I wasn't like up to the par of those guys riding. And I just start like moving dirt around with my feet. And I didn't even know I was doing it. It was just a nervous habit.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden it was like, someone's like, dude, why are you scratching the dirt all the time? So it was like, all of a sudden I'm getting called Scratch. And I'm like, what? This is, so it was okay. Just kind of go along with it, just like anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think moving around like that, did that have anything to do with like anxiety? Maybe it didn't help you out in school?
For sure. And just nervous energy and being ADHD like I totally am. So
yeah.
I got a new one for you. We're going to start calling you Pat. Because your hand keeps going like that. I'm just
it's that nervous energy.
Yeah. I like do the same shit under the table. They can't see it.
Yeah.
I'm like, fucking
pounding.
Yeah.
See, what I've always loved ever since Kev told me about it early on when I started working here, R2 Detour.
Yeah.
That's just
R2 Detour.
What's the story with that one?
Yeah, so back at Stone Pine when we were at their store, the original spot, we I don't know. I'm a social guy, man. I like to go out and kind of talk to everyone and just be mingling and hanging out. So I would just find myself walking down Main Street, just leaving Stone Pine. And I'd go to like, back then it was called the Buffalo Shirt Company. There's this guy, Sean, super cool to hang out with and chat story with. And then end up being like by the Benito house, seeing someone else. And just all of a sudden I'm gone for like an hour. And Kevin and my brother would be like, where is this guy? You know what I mean? Where'd he go? So one day, and this is prior to meeting my wife now, but lady at the time, and Coley would come in the parking lot, and I'd just start talking to her, and pretty soon off we'd go, like
just gone,
and so Kevin, I came back one day, he goes, "Bro, your new nickname is R2 Detour. You literally just start like." We see you walking out the front door. We have no idea where you're going when you're coming back. So
and that is true to this day.
Yeah,
freedom, dude.
That's a premeditated nickname. He thought about that one for a while. That's creative.
Oh yeah.
It's so good.
And I have nothing to do with stuff. So it was pretty random.
All right. So then, real quick, you went to high school here.
Yep.
Finished high school, and after that, you didn't go to college. I would guess, right?
Yeah. So. Went to Fairlawn View as a kid, all the way up through 5th grade, and then just realized that school was it was a big struggle. So my mom helped me get to over to Charles Armstrong and actually went to a school where they really kind of broke down learning in a different way. Unfortunately, missed some wild times like at Cunha, which everyone knows about.
Yeah.
So 6th, 7th grade there, and then I actually moved on and kind of skipped 8th grade because it was like I was kind of getting ahead.
Okay.
And so then there was a high school at the time, and Charles Armstrong had a high school campus in Millbrae, so kind of right above Cappuccino over there.
Yeah.
And went there for freshman and then sophomore year, and they closed it down. So then I came back to the high school my junior and senior.
Nice. Finished it off up here.
Yeah, which was super epic.
Do you ever have plans to go to higher education?
Did I?
Yeah.
I gave it a college try for about a month, and then my parents went off to Hawaii, and I said on vacation, and I never showed up again.
Yeah.
So they went away, and I was like, yeah, I can't do this. This is just too much for me. So
yeah.
Okay.
It was always in the cards I had the brain power to do it. It just wasn't like for me, sitting in a classroom for 3 hours was a challenge for me. So I was like, I didn't really know if that was going to work, even though if I had probably thought about it more and not goofed off in high school as much as I did, I would have probably been able to go and find a school that would have catered a little bit to more the way I had to learn.
Closer to like what high school did for you, or
exactly.
the school over the hill. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So you went, you gave it the college try, and then how quickly after that did you decide to do your own? Because you started, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you started your own business pretty quick. You started at a young age. So when did that all come about?
I used to go. My older brother Matt was living in Oahu at the time, and I kind of would go over there in the summers and pretty much from 13 on and go over there and hang out with them. They're all older. Definitely learned life, like experience things that you probably don't want to experience at 13 or do want to experience. So for me, everything was awesome. It just got to learn a whole new lifestyle compared to being sheltered a bit in Half Moon Bay. Yeah, that was a really great time of life. We became super, super close, and he turned me on to mountain biking. And I'd go to Oahu, and he put me on his old mountain bike, and we started riding trails. And bro, I went from crying in the freaking middle of the forest over there because it's just a slip and slide, and you're falling on roots, and I was like, I can't do this. And then to like him yelling, your mother's not here with you now, boy. You better get it. Like, step up. And so I learned, and I just started riding, and I came back and I got my first mountain bike that summer, which was 1989. So I went and worked all summer with my dad's friend to paint my grandfather's house in Woodside. And at the end of the summer, there was a shop called the Bicyclery, not the Bicyclery, but the Toy Peddler. And that was over in Strawflower Center by Round Table.
Oh, no way.
Bought my first rock hopper. My dad matched like the money that I had, and that was the starting of it all.
That's really cool.
So was that,
bike? Yeah.
So was that like you could say like your obsession of bikes? Is that pretty much when it started, is from those trips to Oahu? Or, I mean, because you were always riding when you were younger, just like,
playing
anybody.
in the streets.
Yeah.
Hanging out
But like mountain biking and like wanting to just get on your bike and ride.
100%. Like it was, going over there and just learning what the forest is all about. And it was pretty much jungle there, and it was really, really awesome to get to experience that. And I think like anyone else that really kind of dives into riding a mountain bike, the addiction becomes real, and you're like, it's really fun and it's peaceful. It's mind clearing. There's so much to it besides just riding down a hill or up a hill. And back then, the equipment isn't like it is now, where you can pretty much send your life, even though you don't know what you're doing, and you'll probably be fine.
Yeah.
Whereas back then, you had to pick your way down stuff for sure. So it was a lot about the climb back then. It was really about like kind of pushing yourself to that limit of climbing up that hill or making that climb to be able to get to a descent. And over there was really cool because nothing was super, super long on the climbs, but the descents were really fun and challenging. So I got addicted and hooked on it, and I would come back after summers and ride my.
Not a bad addiction to have.
Yeah.
Kind of random, but like, when was the first time that you climbed all the way up Montara Mountain?
I can tell you the first guy that ever took me up Montara Mountain was Tony Maganini.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
longtime Montara local.
Yeah.
I remember being jealous of all his Tom Ritchie bikes.
Yeah.
That he'd have.
my old baseball coach, and yeah, killer guy. But so was he had like some Ritchie bikes and like original mountain bikes, and
he had a neighbor. She was really, really into mountain bikes as well. They did a lot of riding back then, so
that's cool.
We would go up and climb the mountain.
Yeah. So
it was probably around early teens.
Yeah.
I mean, like when I could actually make it up the hill.
Yeah.
Sure. So
without stopping, I'm not sure. Actually, I couldn't tell you exactly when that was. Probably once gearing became a little easier.
Without stopping climbing Montara?
Yeah.
Dude, stop every time.
Yeah. I got my stopping points. It just stop at the top of crack, and then.
I was never a record setter on the climbs. Let's put it that way. Or the descents, but like for that matter.
Descents on the road bike though.
Descents on the road bike, I was having some fun.
You're ridiculous on a road bike descending.
It was pretty fun. Actually, we are pretty lucky because around here there's some pretty fun sections.
Yeah, for sure.
So how old were you when you and your brother started the business?
Yeah, so he moved back when I was 20, like the beginning of when I was 20. So he was here for about 7 months. At the time, I was 20 years old, trying to figure out life, working, construction, like a lot of people do, kind of trying to figure out, like, working for my dad's friends. And we were like, man, these shops, there was only one. It was the Bicycle. They had their run, like it was a store for sure. Like they took care of the coast for many, many years. And I just wasn't getting out of it like what I really wanted at the time, which is still to this day, I'm the guy that I don't need it, but I love putting all those little tiny Gucci parts on a bike. And I'd have to drive to Palo Alto to go find something like that. And I was like, man, that would be so fun, Matt, if we could have a shop and be able to have like that. We don't need to do everything, but we need to like focus in on building like really cool, fun bikes that we like to ride.
Yeah.
And that's really been the focus for the whole entire time.
It's awesome. Was there anybody at that point that told you not to open a bike shop?
My dad definitely questioned it. He definitely questioned it. My mom kind of looked at me like side-eyed and was like, really? You want to do this? But I, at the time, was so into bikes that I really didn't look outside the bubble. That's all I thought about was riding and being on my bike. And it was, I had a passion for riding and building cool bikes. For example, when I was working construction, there was a shop called Redwood Cyclery, and they were in Sequoia Station, right by where Max's Opera Cafe was, right there. And guys were super cool, super friendly, totally into bikes. And I remember they carried GT and this brand Ventana, and I was like, what's that? Like, that was so cool. And it was kind of forward-thinking mountain, full suspension mountain bike at the time. And I remember calling my brother because he was still in Hawaii, and I was like, I just bought this frame, man. Like, and it was all black and everything had a polished rear end back then. So you had like a main triangle, you had your linkage, and then you had like everyone always, for some reason, never powder coated the rear ends. They always polished them, and it was just the look that they did. But I got super into it, so I had that powder coated. And then I put like everything Rasta on it that I could. Like I was buying derailleurs that were way out of my budget. Like, so I remember like
all the Paul component stuff.
All Paul components.
Yeah.
Gorilla billet, you name it. It was like Chris King before they even had rear hubs and just crazy stuff. So like I had different colored chain rings. I mean, you name it. It was pretty stupid, honestly. But like I remember on Fridays I'd get paid, cash the check. Or he'd give us cash at the time, probably, and go straight to the bike shop because I owed them more than I was getting paid.
Yeah.
So it took months of working to like pay it off. And then I was like, by the time my brother saw my bike, he was like, what? That's insane. And it's like, I had a better bike for once than him, which was like, this is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just being the younger brother.
That's awesome.
At what point when you guys were opening the business, did your parents really get on board and they were like, oh, they're really passionate about this? And
I think before we opened it, we all kind of, because my brother moved home, so I was young, so I was still living at home, fortunately. And it was one of those things where we all kind of sat around the dinner table and made our decisions. We're going to do this. And I'll never forget, my dad's pretty old school, and he was like, well, you just got to get a cigar box and use that as like, your cash drawer. And I was like, no, that's not good. And my brother was way more A-type, so he was like, nope, that doesn't work. We can't do that. It's not like the 60s anymore. And so we had to go to, we got a regular cash register and did like basically started up with hardly anything, you guys. Like, honestly, it's been 28 plus years of just like blood, sweat, and tears, but worth every minute of it just for experience, the people we've met through the years, and like, yeah, it's been amazing.
Well, your passion is, what's the word? Infectious. Like you come in and you can just feel that everything in this shop is loved and cared for. And it's really cool. I mean, like coming in, and especially when I came to buy my bike from you, it was cool. That's just a sick process to work with you. And then you start getting stoked about my bike and you're like, dude, yeah, this. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah. And you just like you continue to progress people without even knowing it, and it's really cool.
It's fun spending other people's money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things. And we also wanted to I want to reiterate that having a store in a small town means you have to cater to as many people as possible of all economic levels. And so I never wanted to pigeonhole ourselves as being a high-end only store, because that's not really going to go, it takes years to build those kind of clients that are going to have faith in you for that. Whereas a family market, having I love taking care of kids at the holidays or anytime, just to have the stoke on kids' faces to have a new bike, or help their parents get a cruiser even to go down the trail on and put some cool bell on there. And you could ask David.
Yeah.
I have a wicked bell selection.
Oh, yeah. But it's so awesome when parents come in with their kids and you're setting them up on their first bike with pedals.
Yeah.
They're coming off of Strider bikes, and those kids go try the bike in the parking lot, and it's just it takes them a little bit to get the hang of it, but the second they start pedaling around, they're just gritting ear to ear, and they're like, all right, we'll take it. And then you're like, go pick out a bell.
Yeah.
And just seeing how stoked kids get, just that you're throwing in a bell,
The smallest things make a huge difference.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So we got one of your employees with us. What's it like having employees, and what's it like working with them
Yeah.
against them,
No, there's no against. It's really cool. I can't be lucky. And I am so lucky that all through the years, I've had really great people that I consider still really good friends of mine, that have worked for me or just worked with me, alongside me and my brother at the time. So, it's good. We started out where, obviously when you first start a business, you don't really have a lot of cash flow. So you're, having an employee is tough. So I was we worked for, I want to say about a year without anybody.
Okay.
And then my good buddy Kevin was working down at a sports, at the time, 3 doors down in Stone Pine, they had sports and golf. And it was an import-export business. So it was kind of an interesting platform. But he was a teenage kid and was stoked on getting a mountain bike. He was really, and so we just said, hey man, come to work for us and we'll get you a Heckler X, which is at the time was a Santa Cruz complete full suspension mountain bike. And it started a whirlwind. It was he had such a stoke for it. And we would ride for hours after the shop and go, we did wheelie contests down Main Street. I couldn't tell you till how late at night, and just bunny hopping over stuff. And it was just the simplest things of just cruising around the streets and riding, obviously trails as well, but there was not really as many trails then that have formed now. There's so many trails and trail network systems now than there was back then. So you were a little more limited. So we did a lot of just jibbing around and bunny hopping up on stuff. And that guy was impressive, man. He got really, really good. So
the community's gotten bigger.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's growing in a good way.
Yeah. And how many employees do you have now?
Yeah, so it's 2 of us in here, and then we get some help from a longtime employee as well, ex-employee, but he still comes in, and the guy's amazing. He just comes by randomly when he's off work, and he'll just come in here to do something on his own. Then pretty soon he's working, and you're like, bro, clock in if you're gonna do that, So
and the awesome thing about Logan is that, working here was his first job.
Yeah,
and it's been on and off for
28 years, basically 25 years.
Yeah, because he started it pretty early.
Yeah.
And
he was in 8th grade or 7th grade when he started.
No way.
Yeah.
But awesome. A great story with Logan that I know he's told me is that on his senior skip day, he skipped school like everybody else, but then he just came to work at the bike shop.
We were like, what are you doing here?
Middle of the day.
Yeah. He's just a great guy, man. He's got a true passion for riding and also building really fun stuff. And I'll never forget, he always got a translucent red Santa Cruz. He loved that color. And his motto was, I'm just going to buy another translucent red Santa Cruz next year because my dad and mom won't know I got a new bike.
Yeah.
Because it's the same color. They probably won't know it, know? Whether he got away with that or not, it was his way of doing it.
Yeah.
So
Logan Red.
Yeah.
Whatever you got to tell yourself. Yeah.
Does he still have road bikes?
No.
I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Not
I think he has
really.
a red bike anymore.
No. So when it comes to owning your own business and everything, like what was the main decision that made you want to just like be your own boss? And I mean, for one, you don't have to answer to anybody. Like you make all the decisions. But like what was the main thing that drew you to that?
Well, when we first started, my brother and I started it together. So when we started it, I'll never forget, we took a trip to Colorado, and the way we came up with our original name was BSB's, the Bike Works, which BSB standing for Bike Shop Bills. Well, Bike Shop Bill was a guy that Matt knew from Hawaii, and he started his own online bike shop in Colorado when he left Hawaii. So we kind of piggybacked up to him for like some knowledge in the very beginning, and it was super crucial. Like he helped us get a few brands. At the time, he had Santa Cruz because he was doing a lot of like online wheel builds and everything like that. And back then, you didn't have the internet, but you did have like the mail order catalogs. Like everything was in magazines, and that's how people ordered if they wanted to get like special deals or stuff that like was maybe more unique than just getting, going down to your local bike shop. So when we started, we tried to call everyone, and yeah, you get shut down real fast because there was the Bicyclery in town. They had been well established for a long, long time. And I remember specifically they had Specialized. GT was really big back then. That was a huge brand. And yeah, we called all of them. They weren't willing to mess with us because we were too new. So we started with Fuji. Like, really kind of crazy story. Bill had Fuji as like his kind of like lower price bike line, and he had KHS, which KHS back then had some really kind of like nice mountain bikes for that era of time. And he also had Santa Cruz. Now, Santa Cruz wasn't going to just jump on board with a new shop. Like they're like, nah, it's not not our deal. Well, we started, I remember ordering, I think 10 bikes from Fuji, and like most of them were cruisers from KHS because that's what we could afford to get. And then we got like a little credit line with them, and we got like a few mountain bikes, like a couple of full suspension bikes where they're really basic. I think the retail might have been $1,200. You know what I mean? Like at the time, which seems like a lot of money.
But most of you had to buy all up front.
Yeah,
then,
pretty
right?
much back then. Yeah. And I remember going to a local distributor called Mary Sales, who does very few things anymore. And there was a place called Wilson Bicycle Products, and they were over in the East Bay. And we would drive there and pick up a box of parts and put them on our wall, which back then there was no inventory system. It was put a price tag on it, stick it on the wall, whatever you had, and hope that someone buys it, right? Or hope that someone needs it. It was a big guessing game, honestly. And yeah, we started there, and then that we started in August. So back then, Interbike was the big trade show that everybody went to be able to like work deals, build client relations, like, figure out what you're going to do, place orders. Well, we showed up, it was in Anaheim back then. So we go there, get the roachiest motel, like it was so sketchy, and go to this show. And we walked around with Bill because he actually flew out from Colorado because he was well dove in by then. So we walked all around, and every place you go to, you're looking and dreaming because you're not really going to get those brands, right?
Yeah.
So Specialized, the Treks of the world, like Gary Fisher, all those were like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. And we went in, and back then GT was so big, so they had Dyno and they had all those brands. And we walked in, it was its own pavilion. So you had to walk out of the main pavilion into their own pavilion. And I was like, whoa, big dogs. So I go up to the thing. There's this guy, Stan Alger, I'll never forget, kind of older dude. And he was, which I am now, but he's, he looked at us, he goes, how can I help you guys? And we said, oh, we'd like to look at the bike line, and we're a new bike shop in Half Moon Bay. And he goes, yeah, so great meeting you guys, but sorry, we can't let you in. I was like, well, okay. So we literally just got turned around at the front door, couldn't even see into its own pavilion. And then we walked out of there going, okay, well, we just got to stick to our guns and do what we're going to do, and just kind of keep going. At the time, I made friends with Sherwood, who was the owner of Ventana Bikes, because I had one already prior to opening a bike shop. So that was really cool. Kind of had a couple high-end frames on the wall to get the stoke going, you know, already, like kind of building our thing. And my brother was always a tool guy. That wasn't more my side. That was more his side. So, yeah, all the backlash that would come from the other store that was probably irritated that we started a bike shop, he would just buy another tool. So pretty soon our tool was getting massive, you know, because it was like there was a lot of smack talking going on. So it was like we were just used to it. It wasn't really a big deal. It's just we're not going to talk back. We're just going to buy another tool. So we had everything after a while. It was pretty cool. Going into, that was like September, because Interbike was usually always in September, like late September, early October. That would have been our first Christmas going into like the, going in, and it was like, all right, we're doing this. Trek actually called us.
Oh.
And we were like, the Trek rep came in, and I was like, hey, how's it going? I started talking to him, and yeah, I just, all of a sudden, like my natural ability to just start chatting it up with people, like started to kick in, even though I didn't even know I had that, you know, back then. It was just, you're too young to know. And I started talking to him, and that Christmas, we actually already got Trek bikes.
That's
so
awesome.
Our first Christmas open, we had Trek mountain bikes.
That was 1989?
That was 97. So like right before 98, because we opened in 98.
98.
We opened in 97 of August. So by 98, almost Christmas time, we had Trek bikes.
That's awesome.
And so like the cruisers that we had from KHS ended up becoming like cool cruisers. And back then we were putting like suspension forks like from RockShox on a cruiser. So like just kind of tricking out like cruisers.
I want to find one of those.
Kevin still has one, but
Really?
there's definitely a few out there that have like a fork on them still. And I bet you I could find one. But yeah, so once we did that, weird story, kind of started with Fox back then, because Fox was mostly moto, but they were getting into the bike world. And I remember getting like our first order, and it was like 6 pairs of gloves, and it was on a grid wall. We thought we were so cool, having like 6 pairs of gloves like on display with a Fox sign like above.
Tell your friends.
Exactly. Yeah. So we got Fox, and the guy was really cool. He was a dirt bike guy. We kind of always jived, you know, he was a super good dude. And when he came in one day, like the following year, so it was about a year after we opened, he goes, hey man, I got a friend with me, and he's the Specialized rep.
Oh.
And I was like, all right, like, yeah, hey, how's it going? His name was Judd, and Judd Ciancio, I'll never forget. He's a great guy. Rolled in, and we just started bullshitting, like talking about like his old BMX race days and like, you know, in riding. And I remember back then, like the whole Mountain Dew, like, you know, world tour was kind of just kicking off, and like Mountain Dew was like a really big sponsor back then. And so Specialized mountain bikes had like Mountain Dew special editions, you know what I mean? Like they had colorways that were coming out. And he goes, hey man, I don't know if I can do this, but I really like your guys' like energy and vibe, and I'm not really stoked on the other store. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to get in the way of that, and that's not my business. But yeah, if you guys want to talk to us at Interbike next year, because this is like, you know, after, you know, kind of coming up into summer of that year. And we ended up going, he called us a couple times in between there, had to start filling out the paperwork for Specialized. And I'll never forget that when we showed up to Interbike for our second time, we were now invited into like, you know, because we were already a Trek dealer. So now we're at the Trek booth, and then we have a meeting set up at Specialized, and boy, was I nervous. So I was like, oh, this is going to be like, you know, I got to put on my game face. I'm 22. I'm like, yeah, this is like, you know, I got to talk to people. So we started to walk in, and the owner of the other shop was flipping out and like was walking out of the Specialized booth at the same time. Just gave us the biggest stink eye, and I was like, oh man, this is like not what I wanted. But from there on, we became the Specialized dealer, and honestly been unbelievably lucky with the brands that we've been able to acquire and hold on to. And we are always looking for that brand that can fill a certain niche. Like if it's for kids full suspension, or if it's for kids pump track bikes, or if it's, there's so many categories of riding now than there was back then. That's why our bike lines have expanded.
Like Specialized and Fox, between those guys, like that's 25 years
Yeah.
of working with both of those companies.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Are they giving you
Really
like
cool.
lines of credit back then too to like?
Very little.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
They
little.
were
You have to.
helping you out a
It was
little bit,
a
so.
building process for stuff like that
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And then also one of the companies that we became friends with, and David knows very well now, is Skippy with Giro and Bell. So
Okay.
Giro and Bell helmets were. We just became friends. He was my age, you know what I mean? And we were like, he was a rep and I was a shop owner, and we just had a great time. It was like every time that guy came down, we were having a good time. So it was really, it became a special friendship over the years, and just a working friendship that was awesome. So we would always like have faith in his products that he was selling, because I knew that guy. He was way, way into the high end stuff like I was, and making stuff really cool. So I knew that if he was going to ride it or it was going to be behind it, it was probably going to be something pretty cool.
Yeah.
And just hanging with other dudes that like bikes.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Let's get a little deeper. What kind of sacrifices did you have to make when you guys were opening the bike shop? You were 20 years old. It had to have been tough.
Yeah, that was probably I didn't even know it back then, but probably one of the toughest things that I was dealing with. Being 21 right after you open up your own business, sign a lease. Like I signed a lease when I was 20 and opened up 2 months later.
Wow.
So I was turning 21 on that birthday that I signed the lease, and then we were opening up. So it was full gas, putting flooring in, using torches on wood outside to like burn the wood and then scrape them with wire brushes and then lacquer them so they looked old like barn wood.
Yeah.
And that's what we built our showcases out of back then.
That's awesome.
And so it was like, really cool, filling them with rocks. I mean, nowadays it'd probably be like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was cool for the time. It was
Yeah.
definitely era specific.
Yeah.
For sure.
But you must have had to miss out on times with friends or
Yeah. And that's kind of going forward. Like I said, you don't realize it in the very beginning, but then friends are going to the lake. Partying is a big play at that point. People are going out at night. Some of my buddies were a little younger, but they were kind of heading off to college and doing like, just stories were insane, like coming out, just talking about their parties they're going to and just the life they're living. And I don't know if I could say I got jealous, because I was like forming a really cool life for myself and was trying my best and living my best life. And we had a really great friend group that would all like hang out and party ourselves like in the evenings, or even if it was at work, like at the workplace, shut the doors and like hang out and, have a good time, so, but yeah, you definitely miss out on the traveling part.
Okay.
My dad was a traveler. I kind of have it in my genes, I think, a little bit, to kind of get up and just go somewhere new and check it out. And I didn't get to do any of that. So that was a little bit tough. We got to go do some good riding and some fun riding. I mean, we would never do it now, but back then we closed for 8 days, just put a sign on the door and said, yeah, we're going to Mammoth. You couldn't get away with that now. You'd be like, yeah. So we definitely did our thing back then. And
still having fun.
again, having fun, but in a different way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you've also been able to, like, with your kids racing and everything, you've been able to kind of scratch that travel itch, just cruising around. I mean, you went to New Zealand, you went to Australia.
It's one of my goals for sure. Like to like, now that my kids got to a level, and that's been a really fun thing to keep me engaged in the cycling industry, is kind of keeping up with trends, and David keeps me on tack when it comes to like racing and like, the stuff like that, which is great. And I think it's really important for shops to follow racing, because that's the competitive edge that is out there, and you need to like see what they're on, what kind of bikes they're on, the trends that they're, you know what I mean? Like that's going to carry. And so, yeah, I think it's been really great to watch them kind of get into the race scene and really just take bikes on as a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And for me, yes, David's right. It has like helped to get to some places I never thought I would get to. I mean, now I've been to New Zealand twice. Sure, I would like to go for a longer period of time to do maybe some exploring, not just be at a race venue, but it's still a beautiful place. When we went, we've met some people now, and it's been really great.
That's awesome.
When it comes to like good years versus bad years, owning a small business, I know that's a big thing. Like not every year is the same. I pretty much started working here during probably one of the best years through COVID and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Take us through like good years versus bad years and how you handle that and how you rebound from a bad year and how you go forward after a good year.
Yeah, I think you need to really look at trends. And unfortunately, until you have some trends to follow, you really don't have a guideline for that. So fortunately, we've made it, but unfortunately, we've had 3 or 4 ups and downs throughout the 28 years where you're like, oh boy, how there's not people coming in the door. What's going on? It's not that you've done anything wrong necessarily. It's just that the business is not there. People are just tightening their belts. They're not spending money on accessories or toys, and that's just becomes, the economy plays a big part of that. I think the construction world plays a huge part in the bike business. Guys that are, I always like to follow guys that are in the trades are gonna, when it's busy for them, they have tons of side work. They like to buy toys. And that's when we get really busy, is when those guys are out doing their thing and enjoying life, like outside of work. So you're going to go through ups and downs. And we were fortunate enough to start out in 97, or the end of 97, was kind of the beginning of the .com era. So you started having people that were making money and like wanting, to definitely spend it. That helped us get a start for sure. Then you had a big crash when you had 2011 when or was it 2000?
2008.
08. Yeah.
Well, no, but even 2000 when wasn't it 9/11?
9/11.
So, yeah.
01. Yeah.
01.
Yeah.
So that was wicked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that was a big fall off. And then you also had, then you start to build back up again. And I remember by 07, we were like, yes, like the business is like really picking up. Like we're having some of our best years ever. And then we were at that time kind of getting ready to we wanted to expand at Stone Pine. It just wasn't working out. Like there was nothing really kind of working in our favor to be able to move next door and open up, kind of a couple of blocks of that. So I started looking, and I was super fortunate to kind of get together with Keaton Earhand, as a local developer, and he was our landlord at the time, and he's just always been a great guy.
He's a great guy.
He is one of those guys that has worked his butt off for years and years to get what he has. I don't care what people say about that. Like there's people that are going to have opinions about everything. He is a hard worker, so he would always drive by Stone Pine to go probably to the mailbox, and he would see my brother and I in the windows, because it was open window back then. And he could see us working till really late hours. And he always had a ton of respect. And then I'd go over there and give him his rent check. And he would always say, hey, it's so amazing to watch you guys like work so hard to build your business and do all that. And he definitely, you could see he was proud, that we were trying so hard.
Yeah.
And luckily enough, also his main person was Tony Canadas' mom at the time. So we also had like a connection and an in at that point too. So it was, we always had some, we were always had felt the love for sure over there. So it was a really good opportunity. And when I went to him, he was starting to look around to see what we could maybe get into. And at the time we ended up finding this awesome Victorian over here. And it was it was a risky move for sure. Like it wasn't like a guarantee, like this is going to be a banger. Like we're going to have this rad spot. I liked the location because it was closer to the highway.
Yeah.
We were more visible, but it was also a risky move in the place that you're in a house. You don't have like proper storage. You don't have like a square box outlet to be able to just build massive bikes and have this.
And it was built in 1904.
Totally. So it was very cut up. We had to do quite a bit to make it a bike shop.
Yeah. And it doesn't look like a super obvious storefront, but it is
definitely not
cool. Yeah.
It is. We get a ton of compliments, and I can't beat coming to work in a cool house. You know what I mean? Like that's what I feel like when I come to work every morning. It's just like I'm home.
I mean, and it's
that's really, really rad.
And the amount of new customers that walk in the door and immediately just go, this is a really cool bike shop.
Yeah.
You know, it's awesome.
It's unique.
It's unique.
Yeah, we've talked about it on David's intro episode, but it's funny traveling around because you go into other bike shops and it's just most bike shops are nothing like this.
There's a few, and they're mostly in Oregon. If you want to know the truth,
Yeah.
like
Well, because like that one that God, is it Sagebrush Cycles in Oregon? I can't remember, but I think it's close to that. It's in a house as well. Like there's definitely bike shops that are in houses.
Yeah.
But they're all pretty standard, you know, and they all kind of look the same.
Yeah.
It's like, this is really cool.
None of them have a podcast studio upstairs.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Hold on, wait. So you guys ended up in this place in 2007?
So in 2007, I started working the deal with Keith
Yeah.
and my folks to buy the property. And
So in 2008.
so we remodeled it for a whole year after buying it.
Oh.
And then in December 15th of 2008, so it was a whole year. So we basically bought it it was a whole year of construction. So from basically January in 2008, it was pretty much 2008 the whole time. So like January, like I think we closed in January. It got worked on all the way till December 15th, and it was close to being done, but I would have liked to have a couple more months to be in here to do some finished touches. We'd work late nights, go over there, work, and then come over here, and my buddy Sean Alfred did like all the drawings, and we kind of pulled all the plugs, like made it really like how we would kind of envision it to be a super sick bike shop. And yeah, it was great. Unfortunately, our landlord over there kind of was starting to play games, and he goes, "You guys have to be out by December 15th."
Oh.
And so I was like, "What do you mean you have to be out by December 15th? Our rent is like, we're paying our rent still. You've raised everything." So we just kept paying it. And he was like, "Yep, nope. If you want your deposit back, everything has to be perfectly scrubbed, clean, and your sign has to be off by 8 a.m. So we literally were like forced to stop everything, shut everything down, and start making the move. And what happened? January 1 of 2009 hit, and it was boom. You know what I mean? Like the shelf fell off. So
Crash, yeah.
And yeah, so you learn to completely change your business motto. And yeah, ordering parts just to have cool parts on the floor is not it. You know what I mean? Like during those times. So unfortunately, I like that, and that definitely hurts my heart when it comes to like, those kind of business times. But yeah, we worked our way up through that. It was definitely a long crawl kind of out of the trenches. And I'm not gonna lie, there was times where it looked like we were going out of business. It was like there was hardly anything on the floor, and we went through stages. We tried to sell skateboards and clothing and shoes, and I can't tell you, I mean, trying to do shoes in Half Moon Bay is a tough go. So we, and especially skate shoes. So we I remember spending hours at the Cow Palace at some of those, like, where they pretty much dump product, like
swap meet
and stuff. And
flea market.
we went up there and literally spent days like selling stuff just to kind of clear like inventory out, and put a kibosh to that division of it, and just kind of said, you know what, we need to like stay focused on bikes and just strictly stay with bikes.
Yeah. Well, going back into those local connections, like how you knew your landlord and Tony's mom was working with him, just utilizing that. What is your favorite part about operating a business on the coast side?
Yeah, I mean, we all know how lucky we are to live in Half Moon Bay. It's a small coastal town, and I feel super, super lucky to get to call this my home, and going everywhere else and then coming back, you're like, oh, I'm back home. Like, this is amazing. So to get back to like why I like being an owner in a small town is you really get to be like personally close friends with a lot of community members. And that goes farther than just your inner circle. You learn to like kind of go above and beyond your inner circle of friends that you would hang out with every day. And you go to the grocery store, you go to the simplest of places, go down to the beach, and you say hello to someone. It's like you've seen them in the store, and that's a cool feeling, man. Like, and also being able to help out like a lot of people in your community, to drive that passion that you have, and push that forward into other people's lives. And David could answer this, but I think you feel such satisfaction when you help someone out. You're literally like here on a Saturday. Sometimes you don't want to be here. and you're like, wow, I just totally helped this guy or lady have a great day, or get them back out so they can go enjoy their day. So we all have our time to go enjoy our lives, and to be able to like do that for someone else and make their day special it's a cool feeling.
Yeah. And it's someone in your community.
Yeah. And the reality is, like, growing up here and just knowing so many people and getting to meet so many more, I think that's what drives me to want to have the shop the way we have it now. Whereas it's like a clubhouse. It's not exclusive to anybody. It's like, it's a place to gather. Like we love it when people come and just, you don't have to buy anything. It's just to come in and hang out. You know what I mean? Like throw a shoulder on the counter and be like, talk bikes and just kind of like, or watch Supercross if it's on, or like just, just hang out even, and just chat it up. So.
You've probably unintentionally introduced a lot of new friends just by people coming in to hang out at your bike shop.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's really cool too. You guys all have a super special, like, friendship connection. You guys have gone to school for many, many years together and shared fun times. And also you've seen difficult times in your lives, you know what I mean, already. And times where you kind of don't know what path you're going to take. And yeah, I mean, coming back together, it takes to kind of get to that certain age where everyone can come back together and really like build on that friendship that you've had for years. And it's been mainly recently because of the e-bike world where everyone has started to ride, and like really even people that had zero interest in riding bikes because it just wasn't their thing. Mountain bikes now that are at pedal assist are allowing guys to just go have fun and hang out as a group. And it's literally brought like a ton of high school friendships like back together, which how can you beat that, man? Like that's like, we're so lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure all of them would love to hop on a dirt bike and go up into the hills here, but you just can't do that.
No.
And it's like, and if everybody has a e-bike, then
Pretty much the same thing.
pretty much the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
way more accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not quite a band name, but a good podcast name. Bike Shop Therapy.
Or bring the band back together.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Cool. All right. I kind of like to end it on this one. What's something that you would like to go back and tell your younger self? We have a lot of young listeners. What's something that you would, or want to tell someone that's in your shoes, is going through starting something or wanting to start a business?
I say, look at it super carefully, because you don't realize when you're just getting into it, the possibility of the long-term part of it. So if you're looking at, oh, I just want to do this because this seems so amazing right then and there, you kind of got to look deeper into it first. Like before, you got to kind of like picture yourself in 5, 10, 15 years, or not every business makes it that long, but we've been fortunate enough to make it that long, and I plan on keeping it going. So it's like, there's no right or wrong answer. There's just, you got to look into it farther than just like the now.
Yeah.
And that would be my advice. Like, I think it's amazing. I think the opportunities are there to meet so many cool people and live a life that you get to like dream of, like you get to be on a healthy bike, healthy atmosphere, riding bikes, enjoying the outdoors, enjoying what the nature brings to us on the coast side. And yeah, I think it's awesome to start your own thing. You just need to like look into it farther than just like the excitement portion of it.
Yeah.
If you could do it all over again, would you bet on yourself again?
I didn't know if I had that much faith in myself, to be quite honest with you, in the beginning. I think now, knowing that I've put my heart and soul into it and just been super lucky, and also treated people the way that I would want to be treated. And that's what I've been told by my parents like all my life, is treat people the way you want to be treated, and whether that's bad or good, that's what your outcome is going to be. So I choose on the good side. I don't really want to be treated bad. So there's that's kind of my motto, just to really enjoy life and have the bike business, or whatever business you choose. You want to love your job, and if you can go to work every day, because we all have to, and say, I'm happy to be here, I don't think you can beat that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This world's too small to be mean to people. It'll come
Yeah.
back and bite you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it is really important too that, like, I mean, having David, having Joe, having Logan, having Kevin, having all these people in the past, to name a guy, Ryan Borick, like, multiple people. We've been really lucky, and I think, me personally, I treat my guys not like workers. I want to treat them like family. And that's really important to me. So we all kind of we hang out like bros.
Yeah.
And we're not here to work against each other. We're here to laugh and joke and have a great time and just love what we do.
That's huge. You hire it?
Maybe.
Yeah. Right on.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for your honesty and
Yeah.
just allowing us to pick your brain.
Yeah, man.
It's awesome
Thanks
to
for
hear your
having
story.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Right on, guys.
All
Thanks
right.
for listening.
Right on.
Thank you.
Dude, so that's your boss.
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly went into this thinking I've heard all this before, but yeah, learned quite a bit about him.
Yeah, I learned a lot about Kris that I had no idea of. I didn't know he went to a different high school until junior year.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I didn't know 9/11 had such a big impact on bike shops.
Or that the construction community is a big part as to the success of the bike shop. Like we were talking about that with the markets, and when construction's good, his business is good.
Yeah,
because,
just trades in general.
yeah, blue collar in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy too to just 1 year not be able to go and even go in the pavilion for Specialized, and the next year getting invited into it as they
Yeah,
just word of mouth, right?
I liked listening to him.
Well, it's crazy how, nowadays, I've worked here for 5 years. There's no need for any shops unless you're huge and moving a bunch of online product. There's no need for you to go to trade shows.
Mhm.
It's just not practical. But back then it was just such a huge part because pretty much pre-internet, and so it's it was all just face-to-face interaction, and that was how you built your business.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to hear that side of it.
It was really cool just to hear him talk about how he's now looking back on the early days of the business. He's proud as to how he handled relationships and communication with others.
Mm-hmm.
And it was cool to watch him go from transitioning to getting used to hearing his voice in the microphone and getting used to talking into a microphone. And then all of a sudden the real Kris started to come out, and he was communicating just so well. It was awesome.
Well, and that's where he had mentioned at one point, oh, I didn't realize I could talk to people like that, like finding his voice in terms of business relationships and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because dude, I see him now, and that's how I've learned to talk to reps. There's a certain way that when you're talking to people in business, you're not going to say yeah, I don't like your product. But there's ways to talk to them about stuff that's just that's how you do it. And I've learned from him, and he's amazing at working with other companies and building relationships with reps.
Learning that at 20, 21 years old is crazy too.
Yeah.
Young age to start a business.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not in 1989. I'm just dyslexic.
Yeah.
I can't believe I said that. I was like, damn. So that was I knew it was 98. I just couldn't say it.
Yeah. You didn't take it personally.
I got to apologize again. It's kind of cool. Do you guys have any other reflections from any of the other episodes?
Well, I mean, tying in with Morgan's episode, it's just cool to hear how big communication is when starting a business, and just all throughout owning your own business. Both of them have to really just be a people's person, be able to communicate with anybody who's going to walk through the door. And it's just cool to hear them acknowledge that, but to see them do that is another thing.
Yeah. I've been picking up kind of on, obviously now we've had 2 business owners in a row. You can definitely tell the mentality and the way they talk between, someone like the 3 of us, where David talks about bikes too, but it's like a hobby, a passion, where Morgan was talking about chiropractics the whole time, and that's her passion. And that's what she does for work.
Yeah.
It's just her life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was a great episode if you guys haven't checked it out yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super stoked with how that episode went. Kris is just such an easy to talk to person, and runs a great business, knew what he wanted to say. It was just awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. Stoked with it.
Yeah.
We're We're the Between Shifts podcast. That's our recap on this most recent episode with HMB Bike Works owner, Kris Nishkian. We're signing off.
Thanks for listening.
Peace out. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Once again, we're brought to you by Bike Works HMB, your one-stop shop for bike service, sales, and rentals in Half Moon Bay, California. Whether you're on the mountain, road, or low on battery, Bike Works HMB has your back. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help support this podcast, please feel free to reach out to us at betweenshiftspod@gmail.com. The link will be in the description. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. GT signing off.